There were no stars in the skies above Velmara tonight, only the ghostly hum of distant transmissions, each carrying the whispers of a species desperate to be heard. Among them, one signal stood out, a chaotic cacophony of voices, music, and strange languages that seemed both primitive and defiant. To the Zyntraxians, it was an irresistible enigma. Why would a species so vulnerable shout into the void of the cosmos, begging for someone or something to notice? Was it bravery or ignorance? For the Zyntraxians, the answer was simple. Such recklessness was either the courage of the desperate or the arrogance of the naive. The High Council deliberated for cycles before reaching a decision. It was time to make contact. Why now? Why them? Ambassador Zelith asked the Council as they finalized the mission. Their answer was pragmatic, because we must know. They reached out and the universe does not ignore such voices. Satisfied, Zelith prepared his crew, though doubts lingered in his mind. What kind of species would extend its hand to the stars, but remain oblivious to the dangers that could respond? As Velmara's most advanced vessel, the Arklin, was readied for its journey, Zelith addressed the gathered citizens. This is not conquest, nor is it salvation. It is understanding, he proclaimed, his tone both firm and hopeful. The Earthlings, these humans, have called into the void. We shall answer not as masters but as equals. Let us uncover their truth. The ship's crystalline hull shimmered as it lifted into the atmosphere. Its departure met with silent awe. Inside, Zelith and his emissaries carried gifts of knowledge, peace, and curiosity. Yet as the stars folded around them in their faster-than-light jump, unease lingered. Humanity's signals spoke of creativity, but also conflict and fear. Would they encounter a species of dreamers or destroyers? The Arklin surged forward, its mission clear, the answers waiting on a fragile blue world in the distance. The Arklin emerged from its faster-than-light jump in the shadow of Earth's moon, its crystalline hull casting faint prisms of light into the surrounding void. From this vantage point, Earth appeared serene, a swirling marble of blues, greens, and whites. Yet, for Ambassador Zelith and his crew, it was anything but tranquil. "Scan the surface," Zelith commanded, his voice steady but cautious. "Let us locate their centers of communication. We must make our intentions clear before misunderstandings arise." At the helm, Arix, the ship's navigator, initiated a planetary sweep. "Multiple transmissions detected, Ambassador," she reported, her tone tinged with surprise. "Their networks are chaotic, overlapping. It's disorganized, but highly active." "Remarkable," Zelith murmured, leaning closer to the holographic display that visualized the data. The humans' signals were unlike anything he had encountered before, frantic yet purposeful, as if their entire species was constantly shouting over itself. "What does it say about a civilization?" Zelith wondered aloud. "That they cannot speak as one voice?" "They're either endlessly creative," replied Kalen, the ship's cultural analyst, "or irreparably divided." Before Zelith could respond, an alert sounded. "Ambassador," Arix interrupted, her composure slipping. "We're being scanned. A directed signal from the surface is locking onto us." Zelith's antennae stiffened, a sign of focused determination among his people. "Do not respond yet. Let us observe their intent." The ship's systems displayed the origin of the signal, a large complex near one of the planet's land masses, surrounded by smaller metallic constructs. "They're attempting to communicate," Kalen noted, her voice layered with both curiosity and concern. "Then we will answer," Zelith said, his resolve unwavering. "Prepare a universal greeting. Show them we come in peace." As the Arklin transmitted its message, the crew watched in silence. For a moment, there was no response. Then a bright streak of light shot up from the planet below. "Ambassador," Arix called out, her voice breaking the quiet. That's not a signal, it's a missile. Zelith stood frozen for a heartbeat, the truth sinking in. Humanity's first response was hostility. As the Arklin descends closer to Earth, the crew's anticipation grows, and so does the mystery surrounding humanity's response. What would you do if you were the first to make contact with an alien species? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this journey of discovery, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more cosmic adventures. Evasive maneuvers, Zelith barked, his calm demeanor breaking for the first time. The Arklin tilted sharply, its engines humming at maximum output as the missile streaked closer. Arix's hands moved swiftly across the controls, her precision, honed through years of training. "Shields are holding," she reported, though her voice betrayed a thread of tension. The missile detonated just before impact, sending ripples of energy across the ship's protective barrier. The Arklin trembled, but its defenses held firm. Zelith exhaled sharply. "Status?" "No structural damage," Arix confirmed. "But that was a warning shot. Their technology is primitive, but their intent is unmistakable." Kaelin, still glued to her station, analyzed the trajectory. The missile came from a military installation. They're operating under the assumption that we're hostile. "Then we need to correct that assumption immediately," Zelith declared. "Arix, chart a course for a neutral area, far from their military presence. Kaelin, prepare another transmission. This time make it unmistakable. We are not here to harm them." The Arklin descended cautiously, moving toward an uninhabited stretch of desert. Its shimmering hull was a stark contrast against the barren landscape, drawing attention from satellites and ground-based observers alike. As the crew worked to establish a more direct communication link, Zelith stood by the observation deck, gazing at the alien horizon. The heat waves distorted the view, making the land ripple like water. "They fear us," Kaelin said, joining him. Her voice was quiet, contemplative. "Fear," Zelith replied, "often leads to rash decisions, but it also reveals the core of a species. Let us hope theirs is not as volatile as it appears." The new transmission was sent, a clear visual message showing the Zyntraxians unarmed, extending gestures of peace. Minutes ticked by with no response. Then a faint rumble echoed. "Through the desert, Ambassador," Arix called from the helm. "We have company." Over the horizon, a convoy of armored vehicles approached, their weapons glinting ominously in the sun. The armored convoy came to a halt just beyond the Arklin's landing site, their engines rumbling like restless beasts. From the observation deck, Zelith watched as figures in heavy gear disembarked, their weapons raised and their stances tense. Dust swirled around them, catching the sunlight in hazy golden arcs. "Ambassador," Kaelin said, her voice laced with unease. "They've brought enough firepower to obliterate this entire region." "And yet," Zelith replied, "they hesitate. That is a sign of caution, not blind aggression. There may still be a chance for dialogue." The Zyntraxian crew prepared cautiously. Zelith ordered the ship to remain in passive mode, its defenses primed, but its weapons dormant. "A show of force will only escalate the situation," he explained. "We must meet them on their terms." With deliberate slowness, Zelith descended the ship's ramp, his crystalline robes catching the sunlight. Behind him, Kaelin and two other emissaries followed, their movements measured and non-threatening. Arix remained aboard, monitoring the situation with precision, ready to intervene if the humans opened fire. The humans held their ground as Zelith approached, his antennae lowered in a universal gesture of peace. Their leader, a figure clad in darker armor with insignias on his chest, stepped forward, his weapon still trained on Zelith. "You're trespassing," the human barked through a translator device. His voice was clipped, filled with suspicion. "State your purpose." Zelith inclined his head slightly, his tone calm and even. "We come as friends, seekers of understanding. Your transmissions reached our world and we answered your call. We mean no harm." The human leader didn't lower his weapon. "If you mean no harm, why didn't you announce yourselves before entering our airspace?" "We tried," Kalen interjected gently. "Your response was aggressive." The tension was palpable. Zelith held the leader's gaze, searching for any sign of trust. "Fear need not guide your actions," he said softly. "We only seek dialogue. Will you allow it?" The human leader hesitated, his grip tightening on his weapon. For a moment, it seemed violence was inevitable. Then, with a curt nod, he signaled his troops to lower their arms. "Talk," he said, "but one wrong move and we won't hesitate." The tension was almost suffocating as Zelith and his emissaries stood under the unrelenting gaze of the human soldiers. The desert wind stirred faintly, carrying with it a silence that felt heavier than words. Zelith stepped forward cautiously, his crystalline robes shimmering in the sun. "Your caution is understandable," he began, addressing the human leader directly. "But it is unwarranted. Our journey here was one of discovery, not conquest." The leader, his visor reflecting. Zelith's image remained impassive. "You still haven't explained why. Why would beings like you care about Earth? We're not exactly galactic players." Zelith paused, considering his response. "When your species sent its signals into the cosmos, you extended an invitation, a call to the unknown. We answered because we believe in understanding, in bridging gaps between civilizations. Perhaps we can learn from one another." "Learn?" The leader's voice was sharp, almost mocking. "What could beings like you possibly learn from us?" Kalen stepped forward, her voice soft yet resolute. "The resilience of your people is evident in your broadcasts. Your creativity, your perseverance in the face of challenges. These are qualities worthy of admiration. But we also sense fear. Fear that can blind even the most remarkable of species." The leader's eyes narrowed behind his visor, his posture stiffening. "Fear isn't a weakness. It's what keeps us alive." Before Zelith could respond, a commotion broke out among the soldiers. A low hum began emanating from the Arklin, a subtle vibration that reverberated through the ground. Arix's voice crackled through Zelith's communicator. "Ambassador, we have detected multiple airborne signatures converging on our location. Human aircraft. They're armed and closing fast." The leader turned sharply, issuing orders to his men. "Hold your positions. No one fires unless I give the command." Zelith raised a hand, signaling his crew to remain calm. "This escalation is unnecessary. We can defuse this, if you allow it." The leader hesitated again, visibly, torn between duty and the possibility of avoiding catastrophe. "Then do it," he said through gritted teeth. "But if this is a trick—" "It is not," Zelith assured him, stepping back toward his ship. The Arklin began transmitting a pulse of light, a universal signal of non-aggression. The aircraft closed in, their engines roaring louder. All eyes turned to the skies, waiting to see if the gesture of peace would be answered or ignored. The roar of engines grew deafening as the aircraft descended, their sleek forms casting long shadows across the desert. Zelith held his ground, the faint hum of the Arklin's pulse shimmering around him like a protective veil. The human soldiers tensed, their weapons trained not only on the alien ship, but now also on the approaching jets. "This is escalating beyond control," Kalen whispered, her gaze fixed on the skies. "Trust must begin somewhere," Zelith replied softly. Though his own unease was evident, the lead jet circled low, its weapons locked on the Arklin. A voice crackled through the leader's communicator, audible to all nearby. "Commander Holt, we have visual on the alien craft, standing by for orders." Holt, the human leader, hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Hold your fire. Repeat, hold your fire. I am initiating dialogue." The voice on the other end was skeptical. "Sir, they're a potential threat. We can neutralize them now." "That's an order," Holt barked, his tone brooking no argument. Zelith stepped forward again, addressing Holt directly. You wield great power, Commander, but it is your restraint that defines your strength. We are unarmed, our intent peaceful. Do not let fear dictate your actions." Holt turned to him, his expression unreadable beneath his visor. "You talk about peace, but your presence alone disrupts it. How can we trust beings we know nothing about?" Kaelin interjected, her voice calm but insistent. "Trust begins with understanding. Allow us to explain who we are, why we came. Give us the chance to prove ourselves." Before Holt could respond, one of the soldiers called out, "Commander, the jets are breaking formation." The lead aircraft suddenly veered toward the Arklin, its weapons primed. Zelith's communicator buzzed urgently. "Arix here! Ambassador, we're detecting missile locks. The aircraft is targeting us." Holt spun toward the soldier monitoring communications. "Who gave that order?" "No one, sir," the soldier replied, panic creeping into his voice. "They're acting independently." Zelith's voice remained steady, though his antennae twitched with tension. "Commander, you must act. If they attack, we will be forced to defend ourselves." Holt hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. With a sharp motion, he grabbed his communicator. "To all units, stand down immediately. That is a direct command." The seconds stretched into eternity as the aircraft roared closer, their intent uncertain. The crew of the Arklin braced for the worst, while Zelith stood motionless, his gaze fixed on Holt. Trust, fragile and tenuous, teetered on the edge of collapse. The air crackled with tension as the lead jet closed the distance, its trajectory unwavering. The soldiers on the ground braced, weapons raised, while the crew aboard the Arklin prepared for a defensive countermeasure. Zelith stood unmoving, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around him. "Ambassador," Arix's voice came through the communicator, tight with urgency. "Our shields can deflect the missile, but any retaliation will escalate this conflict beyond recovery." Zelith's antenna twitched slightly, his mind racing. "Maintain shield integrity, but do not engage," he instructed. "This must not end in violence." The jet fired, the missile streaking toward the alien ship with lethal precision. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then the Arklin's energy shields flared to life, absorbing the impact in a radiant burst of light. The force rippled outward, shaking the desert floor, but leaving the ship unharmed. Holt cursed under his breath, his soldiers exchanging uncertain glances. "They're not retaliating," one of them murmured, astonishment in his voice. "They're waiting for us to make the next move," Kaelin said quietly, stepping closer to Holt. "You see it, don't you? This isn't an invasion. If it were, we'd already be at war." Holt's communicator buzzed as frantic voices from the jet pilots filled the airwaves. "Commander, we're losing control of the lead jet. It's responding to external interference." Zelith's gaze sharpened. "External interference. The aircraft is not acting on its own," Arix confirmed from the Arklin. "We've detected a signal override. Something or someone is controlling their systems." Holt froze, realization dawning on him. "You mean it's not us?" Zelith nodded gravely. "No, this aggression may not originate from your people. Commander, we may both be victims of a greater force." As the implications sank in, another alert sounded aboard the Arklin. This time, it wasn't a missile. A large, unidentifiable object entered Earth's orbit, its trajectory clear. It was heading straight for their location. The unidentifiable object loomed closer, its immense silhouette blotting out the stars as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. The Arklin's sensors flared with warnings, detecting energy readings far beyond anything the humans or the Zyntraxians could produce. "Ambassador," Arix's voice trembled through the communicator, "this is not of human origin. Its composition and power signatures suggest it's ancient and hostile." Commander Holt stood frozen, his soldiers looking to him for orders. Zelith turned to him, his calm urgency cutting through the panic. "Commander, this is the moment that defines us. If we act together, we might stand a chance." Holt met Zelith's gaze, weighing the alien's sincerity against the overwhelming threat above. "What's your plan?" he asked finally. "Let us combine our resources," Zelith said, his antennae rising as determination took hold. "Your weapons may be crude, but their coordination with our defenses could amplify our chances of survival. It is not the strength of one, but the unity of many that prevails." Reluctantly, Holt nodded. "Soldiers, stand down and follow their lead," he barked, earning a few incredulous looks, but no dissent. The Arklin extended its shields over. The humans' convoy as the alien object unleashed a barrage of energy beams. Explosions erupted around them, but the combined efforts of the human jets and the Arklin's advanced technology began to repel the assault. The ground shook as soldiers and Zyntraxians worked side by side, calibrating targeting systems and deploying countermeasures. As the battle raged, Zelith and Holt stood shoulder to shoulder, directing their forces. "If we fail, humanity will not survive," Holt muttered grimly. "Nor will we," Zelith replied. "But if we succeed, this moment will redefine our futures." In a final coordinated strike, the Arklin focused its energy with human artillery, piercing the core of the hostile object. It detonated in a blinding flash, scattering debris across the heavens. Silence fell over the desert. The humans and Zyntraxians stood together, breathing heavily, their differences momentarily forgotten. Zelith turned to Holt. "Perhaps," he said, "this was the understanding we both needed." Holt gave a curt nod. "Let's hope it lasts." Above them, the stars began to shine again. The first encounter between humans and aliens was not just a test of technology, but a trial of trust and unity. Will this moment mark the dawn of interstellar peace or the beginning of greater conflicts to come? The stars are watching, and so are we. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us as we explore what it means to truly reach for the unknown.